What advice would I give as a result of this interview? This interview has certainly touched on a lot of the symptoms and a lot of the potential causes, including genetics, of manic depression. It is a very long interview by interview standards, but it's long because I wanted to go into that sort of detail. I think one of the things that I would suggest is if someone has watched this video, if they can identify with the mania, hypermania, if they can identify with the depression, or if they can identify those traits in one of their friends or family or close acquaintances, I would certainly advise doing that bit of research into it. I'm not saying that that person has got that bipolar. I can't diagnose. Even if I could diagnose, I couldn't do it by a video like this. But what I would suggest is perhaps to read the Bipolar UK website. There is absolutely fantastic information on there. I would advise that anyone who is watching that can relate to the symptoms, one or more of those symptoms, particularly the mania, hypermania, and feels that that relates to them or relates to a loved one, seek help. Contact your GP. If you're not in the UK, contact your local doctor and seek some sort of diagnosis. The reason I would say that immediately is because diagnosis can take a long time, and do not leave it to a crisis situation before you seek diagnosis. Once you've been to see your GP, if you're in the UK particularly, the time to diagnosis can be a long time. If you do have the funds or if you have the insurance to cover it, I would highly recommend visiting a private consultant psychiatrist. The main reason is that you can be diagnosed quicker and you can seek treatment quicker. The one thing that I would suggest is that if you are looking at consulting a private psychiatrist, check with your GP that they will work with that psychiatrist. Because if they won't work with that psychiatrist, you will be in a position where you are unmedicated because the GP will not work alongside. Once you have your diagnosis, it's then a case of starting treatment, and you will be offered a variety of medication. A private psychiatrist may well allow you to choose the medication. A non-private psychiatrist, an NHS psychiatrist, may well just diagnose what the current thing is. That medication will help stabilise you. It will then prevent potential crises moving forward. My main medication is Lithium. My secondary medication is quetiapine. It doesn't mean that that is necessarily the one to work for you. But when I did start taking medication, I didn't go on Lithium straight away. And I regret that because I suffered a crisis through that. I am now on Lithium and I'm now titrating back up through Lithium. You do have to have regular blood tests. I don't like having blood tests, but I've got used to it. Once you've stabilised on the medication, it's then a time to consult with maybe psychotherapy or CBT. It depends on what works for you. I would certainly recommend, if nothing else, you do a lot of reading around on this subject. I've mentioned previously K. Redfield Jameson. I would highly recommend reading that book, An Unquiet Mind. I would highly recommend reading her other books just because they are so well written. I'd also recommend watching Stephen Fry's documentary just because it gives you a good detailed view of Stephen Fry's condition. Anything else after that, you basically need a support plan. Whatever you do, you need a support plan. You need to make sure that you've got the support network in place for if you suffer a crisis or if things get too much. You need people around you that understand the signs, because as a manic depressive myself, I do not always see the hypomania creep in. Sometimes it can creep in so slowly and just reach a burst after a period of months. So you need people that are going to know the signs, people that are going to know your medication, and people that can basically support you at times of need. You'll also need to consider things like tracking your mood. There are many apps out there to track your mood. You need to basically put plans in place, not just with a support network, but you need to put plans in place, for example, with your work. I'm self-employed. If I have a crisis, I do not work, I don't earn, and clients basically don't get all the work done that they need. So having an alternative or something like that is very important. But the main thing that I can advise all in is get diagnosed, start your treatment, and then read around. And once you've read around and once you understand more about the illness, you will know how to move forward. And over time, you will know more about your illness than any psychiatrist, any GP, any psychotherapist. You will own your illness in a way that no one else can relate.